Okay, so if people can't log on, I can send it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, everybody, let's get started. Welcome to Honours, or for Honours next year. Those of you who are thinking about it, this is the information session where we can sort of workshop questions that you might have or answer them. So keep in mind as I speak, and at the end we'll sort of open it up if you've got any questions at all, but hopefully I can cover most of the things I need to do and answer most of your questions in the basic presentation. So what does Honours do? And I'm sure we've got lots of scholars in the room who have lots of ideas, but I have to keep it quite general because people are coming from lots of different disciplines. But essentially, in my mind, Honours value adds to your degree. It makes a big difference, I think, when you're going for a job. It looks good on your CV. It also introduces you to a lot of new skills. Most salient of those skills is project management. People often don't use that expression when it comes to, because it's a very kind of, I don't know, business kind of biz speak, project management, but that's essentially what you do when you write a thesis or another project that comes with an exegesis or an explanation of where that particular project sits in the scholarship of your particular area. So you learn a lot of new skills. It's organized as a year a little bit differently to a normal undergraduate year. Essentially, arguably, it's about the same amount of work that one would do in third year, but it's just organized a little bit differently as well. It's a little bit more intensive, and there are different aspects to that, which I'll get onto in a moment. You also get to work, as I said, it's a little bit different to an undergraduate degree in that when you're doing your courses, you'll go to your tutorials or you go to the lecture. You might have some engagement with the course convener. You might have some email contact. You might even go and see them, have a meeting, perhaps about a particular assignment, that kind of thing. What happens in Honours is that you have a lot of coursework, which I'll explain in a moment, but you also are writing this thesis. And in the process of writing this thesis, you work very closely with a supervisor in a different kind of relationship, which is mind expanding. And if it's a good relationship, it works really well and people can get a lot out of it. In fact, most people generally do, and they appreciate that kind of one-on-one contact that they don't necessarily get, especially in a bigger course where there might be 50 or 100 people taking the course. The attention given to you is naturally a lot less, but in Honours it's much more focused. And as I said, you meet with your supervisor. I'll talk a little bit about that later on, but you meet with your supervisor sometimes once a fortnight, sometimes once every 3 weeks. Different times of the year are a little bit more intensive. Obviously, the thing is due at the end of October, so August and September are busy months, and you might be meeting with your supervisor quite regularly at that point. You also enjoy doing Honours, a high-level engagement with other students in a way that perhaps you haven't experienced as an undergraduate doing an undergraduate course. The students who do Honours tend to be pretty sharp and pretty motivated and pretty interesting. And the way we've organized Honours is that we have a broad array of disciplines doing the HAS 4000 course, which is the general course, which again I'll explain in a moment, and that brings people from lots of different disciplines, and so it creates for the room for lively discussion. The other thing, sometimes it's forgotten, but you increase your knowledge doing Honours quite considerably. Not only do you specialize in a particular area that is your focus, either your project or your thesis, but you also do a lot of other things from the other components of Honours as well, as aside from your thesis. Your thesis is like half of Honours, and then coursework is the second half of honours. And so across those different aspects to the honours year, you're increasing your knowledge all the time. It's quite intensive. And a lot of people find that when they finish their honours year, they've increased their self-esteem a great deal. They've managed to achieve something that's recognizable. Often, even in the days of digital uploads, people like to print out their thesis or their project in some way, or record their project in some way. And as I said, it adds greatly to your self-esteem. And the other thing I'd say about honours, which is a little bit like the first point about value adding to your degree, it also opens doors as well. These can be professional in your life after university, or it could be more university, or it could simply be intellectually. Doors in your mind have been opened by different aspects that you've covered and you found particularly interesting. So it increases self-esteem and it opens doors. Now, there we go. So the structure of honours works like this. There are three aspects really that we need to talk about. The first is HAS 4000, which is the general course that people do at the beginning of the year. As I'll go on to explain, there is an intensive 4-day session in the week before university starts in February, and then there are 4 weeks of activity to make up HAS 4000. And then, depending on whether you're a HCCI student or you're a SLEW student, you do HAS 4001 or HAS 4002, special area of study, and I'll explain that also going forward. And then finally, HAS 4003 and 4 are your thesis or your project. So HAS 4000, it's the advanced level follow-up to the Bachelor of Arts core sequence of 1000, 2000, and 3000 that you've been doing. And it builds on the interdisciplinarity of this sequence by bringing together students from all the majors in the Bachelor of Arts. As I said, it brings people together from different disciplines with different skill sets, different knowledge bases, and it all contributes to a much more livelier discussion in HAS 4000. The basic blurb for HAS 4000 is that by exploring forms of critical, analytical, and creative thinking in the production of humanities research, this course provides essential scholarly grounding for students wishing to pursue academic study beyond honours, while those headed for other employment futures will acquire a range of flexible research and communication skills adaptable to a wide variety of work. And during the course, they explore, or you will explore, the dual benefits of disciplinary and interdisciplinary knowledge in the form of advanced humanities research and skills development, and you'll co-design the learning through an intensive 4-day seminar series, as I said, and then 4 weekly seminars in the first half of semester 1, with scaffolded assessment tasks related to your larger honours project.
I've just had a text to say they are people trying to get a password.
Oh, right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just heard a ping too. I think I'm just going to have to send them the recording at the end. That's what we'll have to do. All right, so I'm not going to read all of these areas out, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing in HAS 4000 in those first 4 days before semester begins. So we'll have an opening introductory discussion on Monday in the first session. Then we'll explore the values of research. We'll develop your research linking questions, literature and research methods, and then there'll be a library session. So that's day 1. Obviously, that's broken up with lunch and so forth. So there's sort of 4 sessions every day. Tuesday, we look at effective reading and the annotated bibliography. We look at the literature review. We also look at effective reading and the annotated bibliography and reading critically as a subject, if you like. And then we have tips for surviving honours. and you get to talk to previous students who've also done honours there as well. On the Wednesday, there's the Foundations of Research, which looks at theory, argument, and evidence, an introduction to research methods, breaking up into small groups to look at research methods in a bit more depth, and then we'll look at the ethics of research. And then finally on the Thursday, there'll be a thinking through the issues section, collaborating with research participants, styles of academic writing, and the writing workshop. So as you can see, it's quite intensive for those 4 days. There'll be readings for each of those days as well to help discussion along. And the reason why we've decided this year to have an intensive week before the semester begins is to set you guys up better with your thesis and your projects that you do, so you have a lot of skills already. What we found in the past is that if we stretch HAS 4000 over the course of the whole semester, people don't feel as engaged with their thesis as they might be. So this is a better setup, I think, and it's going to work more effectively when it comes to doing the honours year generally. Then there are 4 weeks in semester 1 at the beginning. The first week we'll look at a presentation skills workshop. Sorry about that. We'll look at a presentation skills workshop. Then there'll be in the second week creating impact as a researcher in the arts and humanities. Then careers in the third week, academia and beyond, careers advisors and so forth. And then finally in the fourth week, so quite early in the semester, there'll be student presentations of your work to date that you've decided to do on your thesis or your project. There'll be a brief presentation that you make in a sort of mini honours format in a room much like this. And it's a short presentation of your work. And as I said, in the intensive week that we have before semester begins, we'll talk a lot about those presentations and how they work in practice.
Sorry, I'm just wondering if your microphone is off, just because in the corner it just says the microphone.
So the microphone on the laptop is off, because otherwise
Cool.
we get an echo effect.
Okay, cool. All right.
If you're curious about HAS 4000 and its assessments, we're looking at a revised project proposal of 500 words with a short annotated bibliography of 2,000 words. This includes 500 words introduction and then 10 200-word annotations to a total of 2,500 words. Then there's a contextual review of 4,000 words. And finally, there is your, as I said, the project presentation of 10 minutes that you do in week 4. So those are the assessments for HAS 4000. Now, HAS 4001 is the other course that you do, or you do HAS 4002, which I'll speak about in a moment. But for HICI students, historians and so forth, this course introduces students to the world of international scholarship and advanced research in modern and ancient history. Students will be exposed to different forms of historical evidence and will explore modern scholarly literature and methodologies used in the study of history and ancient history. Students will be guided in the academic and professional methods for expressing their ideas and interpretations of evidence. Classes will aim to enhance student capacities to complete advanced projects in digital work, things like GLAM-X, for example, skills for professional practice, new and emerging methods, as well as information and skills that will add to your thesis. There's a seminar presentation, which is a 1,500-word script, a report based on that presentation of 2,500 words, and then finally a major research essay, which critically analyzes a chosen historian, and that's 4,000 words as well. So it seems like there's a lot, especially, but remember the work that you do for HAS 4000 is done really quite early on in the semester. We also, that's the other reason why we decided to have an intensive week before semester begins. It takes the pressure off so that you have more space during semester one to not only work on HAS 4001 or FAS 4002, but you've also got more space to work on your project or your thesis as well, rather than having a lot of work coming in at the end of semester one, which tends to, I think, interrupt people's kind of flow a little bit. I remember saying when I was doing honors, you know, and people, sometimes people are better with the thesis or the project and they're less good with the coursework. I was certainly like that. And I remember saying to a scholar when I was doing honors, I said, I don't mind the thesis, but the coursework's really hard. You know? I have to work really hard. And of course, that's ongoing. So this way, what we've done is we've put HAS 4000 work at the very beginning of the semester, so there's less pressure and you get more time to enjoy your honors year. HAS 4002 is for SLEW students. Now, the overriding theme of the course is looking for connections between texts, between ideas, between creative and critical practices, and weaving these together in a way that can be argued and evidenced. These skills of seeing, analyzing, synthesizing, communicating will be infinitely valuable to you as you commence your final project and also continue into a world post-university. Each week in this course, you'll be expected to present some text, piece of writing, a meme, or really anything that responds to the material that they've set for that particular week on a variety of topics. You'll be emailed a link and then to a shared Dropbox folder via your student email, and you can use this to upload your text by Monday afternoons to give everyone time to review before the classes begin. So it's quite interactive, quite engaged in that way, and it's a little bit different, which reflects the disciplines that students in SLEW are doing. So it's a little bit different to 4001, but it's of the same value. In terms of the assessments for 4002, there's a poster, a podcast, or digital presentation comparing and contrasting scholarly perspectives. That's 10 minutes or 1,000 words, and it's worth 20%. There's a 4,000-word research essay or research-informed creative work responding to one or more themes or texts in the course. That's worth 50%. And then there's a 2,500-word close reading of a text or theme, or a text or piece you have brought to a weekly session, or a creative piece inspired by that weekly contribution, or an annotated translation. So there's lots of different aspects that suit you and your work, rather than everybody having to do the same sort of thing. There's a lot of leeway and elasticity to those assessments that are designed to suit you and your needs as well, to get the best results, really. So in terms of weight and value, HAS 4001, HAS 4002 are very similar. They need to be. And as I said, they're worth 25% of the overall honours mark. HAS 4000 as a course is worth 25% of the overall honours mark, and your thesis or project is 50%. That's how it's organised overall in terms of the whole year. Now, your thesis. HICI and SLEW is one 15,000-word thesis that's due on October the 31st, 2024. Creative writing can do a 12,000-word creative piece or equivalent, and a 3,000-word exegesis. As a general rule, try and make a good start on your final work by the end of May. A good start. You don't have to have anything written in stone, but it's always good to get it started and use the end of May to really try and round off perhaps an introduction or a chapter, that kind of, make a good start on it. Meet regularly with your supervisor and try and work a little on your project regularly. It depends on the way you work. I've seen people, and I don't advise this, but I've seen people write a thesis really quite quickly. They sort of and ah for a lot of the year, and then there's a massive flurry of activity in sort of August and September as they write this thesis. I don't recommend that. I recommend working on it all the time, a little bit all the time. Keep it fresh in your mind. It can be very difficult, and it can be very discombobulating when you've got a lot of stuff that's due, a lot of assessments for HAS 4000, HAS 4001 that are due at the time, and that can really take your focus away. This is also part of the reason why we've moved HAS 4000 to have that intensive week before semester begins, then only 4 weeks. That means that that whole body of work isn't there in the way, cluttering up your mind in a way, so that you can work on your thesis or final work throughout the year rather than a rush at the end of it. Okay, in terms of supervision, now, the question is if you're not sure what to write or produce a thesis on, it can be tricky at first. This is quite normal for people. I know, what am I going to do? And what's a project? And what's that all about? What I would suggest is think about a broad area that you're interested in. And then you need to go and find a scholar in that broad area. And it can be a very broad area indeed, because we as scholars are ready for prospective honours students, and you'll find us very enthusiastic about it. And we will help you find either a way forward, acting as your supervisor, or find you someone who's more suitable for your area indeed. And that initial contact will also help hone your idea as well. One of the issues is also, what is a manageable project? I come from a history background, as many of you know, and one of the problems we have in history is that often a student has a good broad area that they want to work in, but that's often too broad. And part of the job of the supervisor, working in conjunction with the student, is to narrow that down to be a really good project rather than something that's big and amorphous and is just too broad. So in terms of my too vegan. In terms of my own project, I remember I was doing you know, a revisionist history of some, God, it's a long time ago now, for some governor general in British India in the 18th century, and I thought, I'm going to do his whole governorship. It's going to be a great 15 years. I did 2.5 years. That's all I got, because the project was just too big. So the initial meetings with your supervisor will be all about trying to get a really good workable project, either one that works in a new and a fresh area, particularly with creative writing and that sort of thing, or if it's something like history, for example, it's about narrowing that project down to something that's usable and doable. And we work with the student as supervisors to try and make that happen. It's best to do this as soon as possible. It's best to get a supervisor organized before the end of this year, so you're ready to go at the beginning of next year. So some people canvass a few academics, some people are sort of aware of different academic skill sets and what they're experienced in a broad area. So for example, I teach colonial and American history. So I tend to attract people who are interested in American history, but I can do early modern or modern, that kind of thing. Most of us are quite flexible. You're never going to find a supervisor, I don't think, who is right on your area, and you don't necessarily want that as well. It's a journey for both of us. It's a learning experience for us as supervisors, because often we get to supervise projects that we know a bit about, but maybe we don't know all about it. And that's where the value of your work comes in, because you're producing something generally that's quite fresh, quite new, and supervisors will help you do that. In terms of points of contact, I'm the honours coordinator. I can help a little bit with supervision and finding supervisors. Elizabeth Roberts-Peterson can also do it for Hickey students, Alistair Rolls for SLEW students. But as I said, we do this every year, so we're really keen and excited about projects and potential projects and students as well. So we expect to be contacted at this side of the year to get ready for next year. As I said, I've been meeting with 2 prospective honours students for their projects. Both have have come a long way, and I've got some good projects ready to go. I think we're going to do well there in terms of producing a really good thesis or a project, just based on my own experience over the last 2 weeks, meeting, as I said, with a couple of you guys. As I mentioned before, the honours grading structure is that the thesis or the project is 50%, HAS 4000 is 25%, HAS 4001 is 25%. So in terms of your overall mark, obviously with 50%, the thesis or the project is a major element to that mark, but it's not the whole story. The other 50% is from those 2 courses that you do as well, and they're of equal importance in terms of the mark to each other. And as I said, put together, they become the other 50%, really. All right, so that's the end of the basic presentation. And we've got lots of scholars in the room, so we can all answer your questions if you've got any. But have you got any questions at all about honours? Anything you want me to expand on, or all set? What about ideas? Have you guys got ideas for an honours project in mind? I know Caitlin does, because I've just met with Caitlin. It's a great project. I'm very excited about it. But what about the rest of you? Are you sort of still thinking, or as I said, you don't need to have a project. You need to have a basic area or an idea going forward, but it's honed by you and the supervisor working closely together. So even if it's, as I said, even if it's a broad project, it can be quite easily honed down. You just have to have a few meetings with your supervisor, possibly even just 1 or 2, and it's sorted out. But yeah, any questions about that?
Can I jump in while people are thinking? I wonder if students know whether they're a SLEW student or a HCCI student, and I haven't heard that pronunciation of HCCI, and I don't like it, and I'm quite pleased that it may well be the end of this division.
Thinking, could we call ourselves Hachi?
So do you guys?
Sorry, I didn't know it was a thing.
Relax.
I didn't know it was a thing.
It's KIT. It's Australian slang for a love bite.
Right.
Oh, didn't you know that? Oh, okay. It's not just Australian.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely North American as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that students weren't going, every time he says that, what is he talking about? And who am I supposed to?
Sorry, it was
We love history.
I thought it was uni-speak, but clearly I'm on the outer here. It's not uni-speak. I've just invented it. When I read it, I see hickey. So what is hickey? What are the disciplines now?
It is history, ancient history, and studies of religion. Yeah, those are the 3.
Yeah, those are the 3. And SLEW? Can we say SLEW?
Yep.
SLEW is all right.
SLEW's okay.
Hitchy is one thing. SLEW is all right.
SLEW's fine. SLEW is screens, languages, English and writing. That's creative writing, obviously English literature. I think the old film media and cultural studies is now called screen studies, so it encompasses all of those disciplines, and then languages. So clearly downstairs here for languages.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've taught in this for years, this particular course, and generally speaking, teach it. So, I mean, I expect none of you are here for languages. How many of you here for languages? And very rarely do we get people from languages, because languages taught at undergraduate level are language learning. But of course, if you're going to be a scholar in the field of languages, you don't do language studies. You do literature, or you do history, or you do politics. There is no language study at the end after undergraduate. So languages can't be done in this framework. They have to be done differently. Hence the difficulty for people as languages academics. People keep saying, "Oh, do you want to go to give a paper on language?" I don't know. I don't know anything about language. It's not my field. So that's why.
I co-supervised a fantastic thesis years ago with, I think it was with
Amanda.
Yes, and so she was looking at a French explorer, a woman who kind of stowed away on a ship and kept a journal in French.
That's right.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so that's, I don't know if that's still a possibility, but the idea of bringing together two areas in honours is
In a
quite
sense,
an exciting one as well.
If you do languages as an undergraduate, so you've learnt a language here as an undergraduate, and you want to do honours, generally speaking, you have to have a background in either history usually, or English is the other one usually. And then, generally speaking, I would take you on if your background is English and language, because my background is in French literature. Methodologies are the same pretty much. The difference between us is post-structuralism never died in languages. So we're much more post-structuralist in our approach, in our textual approaches. So I do a bit of that. We do methodologies that cut across the languages and English. And then, so I don't know I saw my name on it. I'm assuming that means I'll be coordinating that course.
I believe so.
Yeah, I believe so too, but I wasn't entirely sure until today. But now I will be, that's all right. Because Rebecca was doing it up to an hour. So Rebecca from Screen Studies. So I'll take it on. I don't know, it'll probably be me, and I suspect someone like Ali Lewis. I suspect there'll be someone from creative writing teaching it. We usually co-teach that one, and it'll be 12 or so pretty much separate weeks. So we'll look at, rather than reading a novel over a course of 2 or 3 weeks, there'll be one text per week, and it'll be excerpts, be fair bit of poetry with me, because poetry lends itself to short bursts, obviously. So that's how we'll run it. So I'm not sure who I'll be tapping on. Ali, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe Rebecca and possibly Brooke Collins Gearing as well, to come in, maybe to do a week here or there. We'll see how many willing participants I get. Otherwise, it'll be a reasonable amount of me wearing a different hat every week.
Yeah.
That could be done.
Kit, may I just say something very briefly from the point of view of being a current honours supervisor? And actually, I would like to just reflect also briefly on the fact that I'm pretty sure, as an honours student here at Newcastle, before I went to Sydney to do my PhD, you taught me, Alistair. Yeah, it was a good course. Just by way of
You had me down.
And you need to know that in a good way, in a really good way, that was a long time ago. So Alistair's obviously.
Not that long ago, because I'm only 25.
Well, yeah, and I'm 3, so you know. So as an honours supervisor this year, I have a student whose project started inspired by a journal article she read as an undergraduate that was about how Indigenous Australians are represented in the media in the colonial period. So in the press, this is before we called it the media, this is mainly just newspapers. So what this student's gone on to do is, I really loved her project. She read the whole first year of the Maitland-Mercury, which is a really important, I know it sounds a bit daggy now, right? But it was a really important newspaper in the 19th century in the colony of New South Wales. So she read it intending to find out how Aboriginal people were represented in there. That turned out to be really rich and revealing for her. What she found through that process that was very exciting to me, and I think this is really what's propelling the project, is something that was a really important undercurrent, was that she could see that the newspaper was also being very political around the time that the Legislative Council was first going to be in the colony of New South Wales. There was first going to be an elected Legislative Council. So she's found this kind of dovetailing of history in a way that has meant she's making a really fresh, speaking about the way that this work can be really fresh, she's made a really fresh argument. And it's so interesting to me as we're talking about what she's reading. So she's reading literature that I'm really familiar with, and I know what she's doing is new. And seeing how she's reading the work that exists and where she knows she's going to locate her thinking inside of that. And me thinking about the fact that people who I know and whose work I know will read this argument is really something, actually.
And that reminds me that often people go from honours into a PhD. So when I talk about opening doors, it might not be in employment, it might be actually at university itself. And sometimes people have a really great fresh take on something in honours, and this builds to a PhD. They expand upon it. And that's a really magical thing as well. you know, to see something that's, wow, this is a great idea, or it's a great angle, and then to get advanced to a whole PhD is a really rewarding thing in and of itself. Any questions? Yes.
Oh, do you want to go first?
No way.
Okay. I'm a double major in sociology and English.
Wow.
And so the idea of doing one and not the other would kill me. I think I messaged you before, emailed you about doing double honours. But I still haven't picked something for English. I had an idea for sociology, but I have done that in HAS 3000. So I'm not entirely sure if I want to continue it or if there's any further I could go, or if I could combine them.
Can I just jump in for 2 things? I did a combined honours thesis here at Newcastle, so maybe we could have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. Yep.
Great.
Yeah, I'm studying education. Thanks for that. Yeah, I'm studying education at the moment, and I won't even finish until the end of next year. So I might be here for no reason at the moment. But
well, no, because it helps you to.
Yeah, I can figure out what I'm doing.
Exactly.
What's the process of me going from getting my degree in education and then doing like honours in history? Like, is there something I need to do in between, or I'm just
No.
Yeah, I'm just
No, there's not.
No.
You can go straight into your honours year from that.
But I'll have to do it in 2025. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, the tricky thing
Hopefully you'll change it.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll change it from hickey by then, right?
I gotta say, we are on that. We are at the very next meeting we have.
Yeah.
It's kind of about that, actually.
Can I have
No,
a minute?
it's fine. These are the things we remember.
But that question of where does it fit in when you're an education student is a really tricky
Yeah.
one, because you'll do your last placement, and so often that leads on to employment, which, you know, that's a good thing. It's great, and there's such demand for teachers now. So I guess it is really good that you're planning all this a year in advance, so you can really think, how do I want to play this? You can step out at any time to do the honours. You can do the honours part-time. Trying to do honours part-time in your first year of teaching, I would think would be very tough. So
See if I go.
Yeah, one needs a bit of dedication.
Take a year off. Do it next year. Do your honours next year. Enjoy it, love it, and then finish your education degree.
Yeah, we'll see if my scholarship will let me do that.
Yeah, okay.
anyone from education here that would like to weigh in on that?
I do have a couple of questions, just because I actually do plan on going ahead and doing a PhD after honours, and I've still got about 1.5 years left of my education degree. Would it be smarter to finish that first and then start doing honours, or do honours next year, then finish my degree and then go try and do my PhD?
Good question.
The same question. So how many units in the area that you want to do honours where you have completed your full major in that area?
I believe I'll finish my major, I think next first semester next year is when I'll have it all finished.
Because you definitely need to have that major.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Do you need the whole degree, like a Bachelor of Arts?
Yeah.
So it's not
Libby,
just a
I'm
major.
looking to you as well. You need to have the degree with a major.
Yeah, no, I
That entry to
so I
honours.
was speaking to the B Arts convener, not the honours convener. I've only seen students recently at the end of the Bachelor of Education taking a year to do honours and then maybe going out to teach. But that's just my recent experience.
That's my experience.
Sometimes there are ways around this we would speak.
Sorry, I see the issue that it's an honours degree. It's an embedded honours, isn't it? So after 3 years.
What's your area?
I need the.
I'm doing modern history and then ancient as a minor.
Yeah, and that's fine to qualify you to get into the honours year, but you would need a distinct undergraduate completion before you would come into honours.
But can you exit from that degree after 3 years and not have honours? It's a separate degree anymore.
No.
In education, no. But speak to us, because we love to have education students come in. It happens quite regularly, so we can definitely do it.
Yeah, we're boring.
We're trying to get
Well, we try to get that.
I might step in here and ask, as the ancient history person, where we don't have a BA major in ancient history, there's going to be a lot of students who are in that, doing education because they want to do ancient history, but they can't do it in the Bachelor of Arts. So or they're stuck doing a minor, at the moment. So yeah, I don't know how that works. And so, advising students, taking on supervision,
Well, I think as long as you've completed the equivalent of an 80-unit major, even if it's not labeled a major, then we do have some discretion in who we accept. So we would say yes.
And just on that question of the sociology English situation, I mean, sometimes we just deem equivalences. I don't think we can sort of give you a double honours.
Yeah.
We could think about ways of co-badging it. Sometimes we send sociology students to do the Bachelor of Social Science core course. Okay, that's happened before, but it will be up to you, I think, to make a decision about whether you pursue SLEW English coursework, or whether you want to do the sociology coursework, but do a thesis with a sociology English combination.
Yeah. That's kind of the short version of what I'd advise too. Yeah, it's while we're on that, what I've seen from my experience, and another student I had attempt a double type of honours degree, just to sort of settle this a little bit for the moment, is that it kind of keeps you not specialising for another year rather than beginning to focus and specialise. And actually the really important thing is to begin to gather in to be focused. Because if you want to go onto a PhD, even though you can draw interdisciplinary ideas into it, fundamentally, partly for administrative reasons, partly because you want to contribute to a field, you do have to be focused. I was sort of going to suggest maybe you have a funeral pyre for the thing you're farewelling, but it doesn't, because you do honours in one area, doesn't mean you actually stop being who you are and interested in both.
Yeah.
And a supervisor who in English, and fundamentally, like I can't advise you about that, you want to do it in either English or sociology.
Yeah.
A good supervisor is going to allow you to explore into what it is you know across both of those disciplinary areas, but keep you in a lane. That means that you do well, because what we want to see at the end is that you get a really great result, and our job is to sort of keep you on a particular path towards that. Yeah, so we can still have a chat, but I think that's partly explain the administrative side of it too.
Yeah, I naively thought double honours was 2 honours. So you do English honours and then you do sociology honours in 2 different theses.
That would be double honours. We don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is just quickly, how is the honours thesis graded? We have an internal marker and an external as well, and between the two, the mark is sort of finalised. So that's why we need them in at the end of October, so that we can get those grades back in good time from the externals particularly, and that's what your supervisors would be doing, or the head of discipline in early October. They'd be getting the external examiner to mark it. And that way we can remain connected to the wider Australian marking kind of average in a way, and that makes it a fairer grade in the long run. Any other questions about honours? Yeah.
So my major is sociology as well. And when these sessions came up, I got a notification about the Bachelor of Social Science honours as well. So is that an option for me, or do I have to do Bachelor of Arts honours because that's my degree?
No, you can do Bachelor of Social Science.
I can.
Yeah. You
Even
can
though
do
I'm
that.
getting a Bachelor of Arts.
Good question.
So again, it's sort of the official policy, and then what sometimes happens in practice. But again, it can be a bit. What does the computer say we're allowed to do? So let me preface that. Usually, if it's a Bachelor of Arts undergraduate degree, you would do Bachelor of Arts honours in sociology, but we would send you to do instead of HAS 4000 or what? Sorry, you would do HAS 4000, but instead of doing HAS 4001 or 4002, we would send you to do the Bachelor of Social Science, one of their coursework subjects. That's what's happened in the past.
Thank you.
I'm not saying it's not possible, though, for you to make an argument, like the guys coming from education, to go and do a social science honours year, it would be the same sort of situation for you guys coming out of education and coming into the Bachelor of Arts. You would just need to make the argument, we need to speak to program advice. Of course, in this session, come and do Bachelor of Arts, the Sociology honours year. But if you do want to go into the Bachelor of Social Science honours year, it's theoretically possible, but it's not the pathway that we would recommend.
Knowing your topic, Ruby, I would be encouraging, that's hence the question I asked earlier,
Yeah.
I'd be encouraging you to go and talk to some of the sociologists about it as well. Sorry, I don't want to.
No.
As I did to Julia after, so inspired was she by my course in PhD in history.
Sort of like that.
It's your fault.
No, it wasn't your fault.
All right, everyone. Well, if there's no more questions, as I said, on this presentation, there are the emails for various people to contact, including myself, particularly about supervision, which is what you've got to start thinking about, I think, now. Think about a project, if you can't think about a specific project, as I said before, think about a general area that you're really interested in, work from that point onwards, but get into contact with a supervisor this year so you're ready for next year.
Can I just raise an administrative thing as well, just so to save us emails right at the end of the year? But you guys might have seen there is an application form for honours. Is everyone seen that? You need to nominate a supervisor and I think possibly a thesis topic, but maybe a supervisor on that thing. It goes into sort of the admissions process and comes to KIT eventually. But just to say that the supervisor, you should ask the supervisor and put the name down, but it's not a blood oath. So if things change or you decide you want to do a different topic, that's fine. But just bear in mind, you can start putting those applications in now if you like. There's not a sort of trial by fire or something, but just you start getting them in. You can put them in early in the year, but the sooner the better.
Where do you actually send those application forms to?
It should say down the bottom. Is it admissions?
I think it might say it down the bottom, but it doesn't really say it on the page. But I'm not sure down the bottom of the actual form itself if it says it. Might need to double check that, but yeah.
I'll look it up for you on my phone. You do this unless Kit, the email address. It used to be on the bottom of the.
Yeah, I thought it was admissions.
It was admissions. Yep.
Yeah.
And with my hat on, I used to look at the research higher degrees, so masters and PhDs in our school. And I know when people are doing honours, some people are often really motivated to go on and do a PhD with a scholarship. So our uni offers a special scholarship program to people that get first class honours. So in the end, you'll get first class, second class, division 1, second class or third class honours. It's not really HDD and credit, but it corresponds. And if you do get a first class honours, you're eligible to apply for our academic pathways scholarships, which are scholarships that support you to do 3.5 years of PhD research. I'm not exactly sure how much it is, but it is, 50,000 tax-free a year. That's a ballpark figure. And, that motivates a lot of people to complete honours. And there might be some honours scholarships nowhere near that amount of money, but I know my student is on some kind of academic scholarship for honours as well, which might be a much smaller payment.
For high-performing students, generally for a PhD scholarship, either a government one or the university organised one, it's usually around an 87 or an 88, puts you in the running for one of those scholarships. So it's quite a high mark. People don't freak out about that. That's just your overall honours mark. People tend to get higher marks in honours as well. So if that's your goal, that's kind of what you've got to work towards. That's the figure at the moment. It fluctuates depending on competition across the whole of the country, but it's around 87 or 88 as your final mark. But as I said, marks in honours are often a little higher than you have been getting in undergraduate as well.
And you can also apply to other unis if you get that first class honours. You can tuck it under your wing and apply at Macquarie or Sydney or.
This is part of this again. A high mark in honours opens lots of doors. So, and that for a PhD at a different university in a different country, for example, that sort of thing. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. As I said, any questions, send me an email. I'm only too happy to help.
just going to see where the form goes.
Oh,
If
sure.
anyone wants to, someone beat me to the Google.
I need to get the recording because I'm going to send it to.
Have you been? Yeah, not too bad, thanks.
Yeah.
Quite a semester.
Because I like
Oh, yeah. How are you? Very up.